see what looks better.
Mm-hmm.
You want to come around this way?
Okay, so I have some
Is this a quiz?
some it's not a quiz. I have some more questions for you after everyone saw the last video. So let me bring them up. So Dad, there was a question about what was the sequence of your career from when you enlisted in 1945 until you went to West Point?
Oh.
Because you covered a lot of your career, but didn't talk about that portion.
Well, I enlisted in the Army in '45 to go into the enlisted reserve program, which was then in effect to get engineers and doctors into the Army, and the Army would send you to school. I qualified for the program in '44, and in '45 I was sent to North Georgia College in Dahlonega, Georgia. But then the program ended because the war ended. So I had a year of basic civil engineering there, and then went to basic training in Fort, God, I'm trying to say,
Fort Hood?
no, Fort Knox, Kentucky. And went through that, and I was named outstanding graduate of the basic training course, got a $25 bond, and was nominated for OCS, which I then went to in Fort Benning, Georgia. And the OCSs had been run for many years as 3-month, 90-day wonder schools. They took all of them and closed them and put one in called Army OCS at Fort Benning, Georgia. And that was 6 months. And then at the end of that, I asked for the Corps of Engineers and was commissioned in the Corps. Interestingly, my father and mother came down to Fort Benning for my graduation from OCS. I then went to, I'm trying to think about, I went to Fort Belvoir for the basic officer course at Fort Belvoir for engineer officers. And then from there, I went to Fort Dix for assignment to overseas ship. And then they said, we're going to, instead of putting you on a ship, we're going to send you to Westover Field in Massachusetts and catch a plane to go to Europe. So I flew up to Westover, went into a BOQ there, waited for a few other young lieutenants to congregate there, and then they put us on a plane to go to Germany, fly to Frankfurt. We got as far as, we flew to
Newfoundland or Greenland?
We flew to Newfoundland, yeah, thank you. Newfoundland, and from there we flew to Paris. Only part way the weather closed in and we turned around and went back to Newfoundland.
Oh no.
We stayed there a couple days, and a couple of the lieutenants got into a poker game, and I engaged in that. And I wound up going over to the office of the paymaster and drew a partial payment in order to have enough to keep going in the game and have something to go on over to Germany. And this happened twice. The third time we flew to Paris and then took off for Frankfurt. And within 20 minutes, we turned around and went back to Frankfurt.
You mean Paris?
Paris, I'm sorry. The Frankfurt had closed again. And so this happened a couple of times, and finally, the third try, we went and landed in Frankfurt.
Wow.
At Frankfurt, I went to there I was amazed at the bombing. I had, of course, heard about and read about, but the building that we were staying in was a old hotel building that had been converted to use for officers, and I went in and I had needed a haircut, so I went down. They said there was a barber shop in the basement, and I got my first type of what was happening to the Germans. They were being put to work in all sorts of jobs that they could use them in. And I had a German there cut my hair, and a young woman did my fingernails. And they charged me all of 25 cents for the haircut and 10 cents for the
manicure?
Manicure. The building, as I say, was one of many that you could see the effects of the war. There was a bathroom on each floor to go to, and I walked down to the bathroom. I opened this door, and I hesitated a minute because it was dark, and I got my light sensitivity, and it was blank. I was going to step off the fourth floor into rubble, which had been the other half of the building. But fortunately, I had hesitation that saved me on that one.
And what was your job in Germany?
In Germany, I was assigned to the 1st Engineer Battalion. At that time, it was the only battalion left in Germany, and it was further split. One brigade of the battalion was in Vienna, one was in Frankfurt, and one was in Berlin. And I went to the 1st Engineer Battalion, however, was in Darmstadt, and I reported in there, and I was assigned to C Company as a platoon leader. And we had they decided to have the first maneuvers of the battalion and to have maneuver training, and so they reopened the training camp that had been the German training camp at Grafenwehr. I was assigned to go down to, I found in the Grafenwehr guys had some old maps of Grafenwehr training areas that the Germans had, and I had the name of the company who had made the maps in Munich. And I went to Munich and found the guy who had made them, and he made additional copies. And I took it back to the battalion, and this is what the first Division used for training purposes for the first few weeks that they were there. After I'd been there a short while, the Russians, we were in the American zone. The zones of Germany and Austria had been designed, had been platted into an American, British, French, and Russian zone. And we were in the American zone at the time. To get to Berlin, we had to go through the Russian zone. And the Russians, in an attempt to stop the flight of the airlift resupplying Berlin by air, had closed the bridges and the rail line, saying there were problems with them. So they started an airlift and took all the old planes out of Arizona and put them to flight, carrying food and coal and water and everything that you wanted and needed by plane. That was really a marvelous operation,
Right.
because at one point there, a plane took off and landed every minute. The first thing we did when I got to Berlin was build a second airstrip at the airfield in Tempelhof, and so that they could do that, taking off and landing. The interesting thing was the planes carried enough fuel for the round trip because there weren't any fuel supplies there in Berlin. I had, when I was there waiting to get on the plane, they grabbed me and said, "You're courier officer." And they gave me a pouch. And they said, "This is the courier for Moscow, to the American Embassy in Moscow. And you'll carry that with you at all times. And if anybody tries to take it from you, you'll destroy it." I said, "How?" And he said, "This is a thermite grenade." And they gave me a thermite grenade. And I said, he said, "You would be having to sacrifice yourself." And I said, "I'm not looking forward to that." You know? But fortunately, that didn't happen. However, they told me to let the pilot know. I told the pilot, "I've let you know that I'm the courier." He said, "Good." I said, "And I have a thermite grenade." And he said, "That bulkhead in front of you is 500 gallons of air fuel, aviation fuel. So I hope the hell you don't use it." There was nothing to worry about there. In Berlin, I was assigned to the Berlin engineer section, and that was, God, I'm trying to think of the number of the battalion that I was in, and I was in B Company and was the executive officer of B Company of the engineer battalion there.
So can I ask a question? When you where'd you go to Moscow?
No, well, yes.
Okay, how long did you stay there? Did you just fly in, deliver it to the embassy, get on the plane and
No,
leave?
I was met by a
Ah,
person from the embassy.
okay.
He had the key.
Okay, and
The pouch was handcuffed to my wrist.
oh, and then did that plane turn around and go back, or did you stay overnight, or what did
No.
you do?
It went back.
You got on the
That's-
plane and
Yes, it carried enough fuel
round trip.
round trip,
Okay.
which wasn't a long flight from there, so a
And-
little over an hour.
And the other interesting story is when you were there in Berlin, and he told me this, and you went to a party one night, or you went to the officers club, and somewhere else maybe there was a party going on. Why don't you tell them that story?
They said it was a normal party night every night at the
Yeah, no.
officers club.
Yeah, no, you said to me that in this particular room there was a party going on, and you said,
Oh yeah, there was a not a dining room, a spatial one set aside, and there was a big party going on. People in dress blues going in and out of there, and the guy I was with, I said, "What is that? All of those guys in that party, something spatial going on?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "That's the ring knockers ball." I said, "A ring knockers ball?" He said, "Yeah, every year the West Pointers throw a big party celebrating founding of West Point." And I said, "Huh, I'm going to be at one of those someday."
And so how did you decide to go from already being commissioned in the Army to resigning your commission and going to West Point?
Well, I could not get a congressional appointment to West Point. And the only other source was the regular Army, which I was, had a few openings for regular Army enlisted men, not officers, enlisted men. So I resigned my commission and re-enlisted as the youngest master sergeant in the Army.
But before that, I remember you telling me that you were a regular officer. You had 2 years of
No.
college. You had 2 years.
I applied for regular officer status, and they turned me down because they said 2 years of college you could do it, but we just changed the regulation.
Right.
It's now 4 years of college. So I said, well, then I'll go the other way.
And that was the days when there was a distinction between a regular officer and a reserve
Reserve.
officer.
Yes.
So what about Korea? What did you do during your tour in Korea?
In Korea, I was a company commander of a engineer construction battalion in Korea. I had B Company there, and then shortly after I got there, I got promoted to major. I'd gone over on the promotion list. So I changed from company commander to S3 of the battalion. And I finished up my tour there as the S3. It was only a 2-year tour.
1 year tour.
1 year.
Or 1 year, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 year tour.
And that was the Broken Heart Battalion,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
70th Engineers.
Mom, when did you all get engaged? And how did Dad propose?
You know, I don't remember the month, but I think you were at summer camp at Camp Buckner. I think we had been dating for 2 years. And I think it was at Camp Buckner that you proposed.
Anything special about the proposal that you remember? I mean, you know, I think in those
Well,
days
I-
it wasn't as big a deal as the kids do it today.
Well, you know, I could say, oh, yes. Or I could say, geez, finally, he decided.
That's because we met on a blind date. And,
Well, I think they know that.
okay.
You know what I think is interesting? Going back to the very, very beginning, when you were in high school and you signed up for this program, you were right there on the campus of Ohio State, and you were hoping to go there.
But they cut the program there.
Oh, okay.
The program was stopped there.
Okay.
It continued at only military colleges.
What I think is interesting is your story when Dad was in Korea and we went back home to the farm,
Right?
and you 3 boys on that farm.
We had a blast. We had the time of our lives,
Yeah, I probably didn't, but you all did.
torturing poor grandma.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
Helping Grandpa Filiberti burn the fields.
That's right. Riding on the back of the tractor while they were spraying, inhaling all of those carcinogens.
and no sidebars on this trailer, and you're all back there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God!
Yep.
But you survived it.
Yes, we did. Dad, you told a story once about General Clark that I recall about. When he got angry, he didn't yell, that he whispered.
I don't remember that.
No, I don't remember that.
I think I remember you telling me that he would lower his voice, and it forced people to lean in to hear what he had to say.
Oh, interesting.
I may have that. I really don't recall
Okay.
telling that, but he was a quiet man in speaking. He didn't have to raise his voice. He was very influential and had a presence of command, I would say. Yeah.
Right. What about Vietnam?
Sure. That was a story in itself. I was in the 299th Engineers, in Frankfurt.
So I've got that story on the last video.
Oh, okay. And,
So-
and how I got to Berlin, to 7th Army headquarters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So so we've got that one. So thank
Okay.
you. What about Vietnam? What was?
I was
You-
put on the command list. The Army made a selection ahead of time of which officers would be given command of battalions in Vietnam and which would not. And I was on the command list, and I talked to Branch, and I said, I'd like to volunteer to go to the 70th. And I said, I know where they are. They're in the Highlands. And I'd like to go to that battalion. And they said, well, it's coming up about the time you go. So, yeah, you'll go to the 70th.
Why did you want to go there?
Because I had read about what they had done
Oh, okay.
and where they had been. And second, I knew it was a little cooler in the Highlands than down on the... And it was.
And I know you had the peoples in that area were the Montagnards.
Yes, Montagnards.
What do you remember about them?
Uh,
Because
They
they
were-
were pretty fiercely anti-communist.
yes, they were. They were the natural citizens of Vietnam. I mean, they weren't the French people that had been imported or left over from that. And they lived their own life. They lived in thatched huts that were raised above the ground and raised crops. And I've tried to think about one of the times I can remember the Montagnards also would do was they would harvest trees, some of these big, huge trees, and cut them into big slabs and roll them out to the highway and then load them onto trucks.
I thought you said they loaded them on the elephants.
The elephants pulled them out of the jungle
Oh.
where they cut them to the road, and then on the road they cut them up further so they could load them onto vehicles to get them out.
What was the most significant event that you remember of that time as a battalion commander?
I thought that was interesting to see this huge dusty elephant coming out of the jungle pulling timbers there.
Yeah. What about military event? What was the most significant military event?
Well, there was a large operation going on in northern part of the zone of where Americans were, and I'm trying to think about what the other event was.
I think you should tell them the time that the group commander, who was it, Colonel Griffith,
Griffith, yeah.
came to see you, and how you got in that helicopter to
Yeah.
go visit another site.
Oh, well, that was the group commander. He had 5 groups, battalions, and mine was one. And he would take a chopper and come in and take a look at that.
Right.
And I had 2 different group commanders. The first one was a little disappointed when he landed his chopper because I showed up with a cast on my foot. You want to stop that, David?
That's okay.
Okay.